What is up, everyone? My name is Zane, and if you didn't know, I recently got promoted to a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, today's going to be a quick video on basically me describing how I got my purple belt, but also some different pathways you might take in achieving your own purple belt. Now, this video could be for those curious white belts who might want to take a glimpse at how long it might take for you to achieve your purple belt. Or it could be for some seasoned blue belts, maybe waiting for that next step in your jiu-jitsu career. Or maybe you just got your blue belt and you want to take a look at how long it might take for you to get your purple belt, right? So if you don't know the belt system in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it goes from white belt to blue belt to purple, brown, then finally black. Okay, so purple belt's that third rank out of the 5 ranks in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and today I'm going to be explaining some pathways to get there. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and get started with the video and check out the 3 main pathways to achieve your purple belt. So everybody has a different journey. Not 2 journeys will ever be the same in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But there are some different pathways that I've noticed people take on their journey from white belt to purple belt. Looking at the pathways, we have the hobbyist, the competitor, and the hybrid. Okay, so it's really important that we understand which one are you. There are different characteristics that you can relate to within each pathway. So let's take a look at the very first pathway, the hobbyist pathway. Now, as we look at the hobbyist pathway, it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, you look at those in your gym and you see someone that may have competed before, but it's obviously not one of their main priorities. Maybe they have a job, they have a family, or they're not interested in doing competitions at all. But nonetheless, you also have to look at the time that they're putting in on the mats. And they might train minimum 3 times a week. Maybe it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that's enough, right? That's just enough for them. It fits into their lifestyle, and this is certainly a pathway on how you can reach your purple belt from white belt to blue, blue to purple. If we take a look at this hobbyist pathway, as long as you're consistent on this path, you can easily get from white belt to purple belt within about 4 to 5 years, as long as you're consistent. And later we'll talk about some potential setbacks in your journey that might occur with you. So the next pathway, we have the competitor pathway. Maybe you just got started and you fell in love with jiu-jitsu. You've already done a couple competitions at white and blue belt, and you just love going out there and competing. You love spending time on the mats. And this is a pathway that I related to and I went along with to get my purple belt. So with the competitor pathway, you compete several times a year, maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months, but nonetheless, you're constantly putting yourself out there competing against other people in tournaments such as IBJJF, whether it's NAGA, whether it's Grappling Industries, maybe it's an ADCC Open, and it can be gi or it can be no gi. But you'll find yourself on the mats minimum probably 4 times a week, and you love competing, and you probably have high aspirations in jiu-jitsu to be expected out of yourself. So when you go and compete, you take a lot of things back to the mat with you. Whether it's a win or whether it's a loss, you have to fix your game to keep getting better, especially if you want to go to competitions and win. If your game doesn't improve, then you'll keep on making the same mistakes and you won't see results. So naturally, when you go and compete, you will want to fix your mistakes, you'll want to find out what you're doing wrong, and you'll want to find out how you can do things better. Maybe you'll have a coach that can help you, show you what you're doing wrong, bring it back to the mats, fix your game, and you'll increase your skill a lot faster this way. Now with the competitor pathway, you can easily see yourself getting your purple belt within 3 to 4 years. Of course, it's going to vary with your professor, maybe with some IBJJF timelines, but nonetheless, if you're on this competitor pathway, you'll see yourself progressing really fast because when you go out to compete, you're competing with live resistance, you're competing with somebody who also trains jiu-jitsu at a high level, and you're competing with somebody that also might have the same goals as you. So the last pathway would be the hybrid pathway. There's nothing wrong with the previous 2 pathways. Maybe you're a combination of both. Maybe you don't compete, maybe you have a family and a full-time job, but you're damn good. You study, you take a look at film, you look at those that are in the game themselves right now. You're up to date with who's competing. You're up to date with the new styles of jiu-jitsu and the new metas of jiu-jitsu. You're watching tournaments, you're tuning into these amazing events like Flow Grappling and Polaris and ADCC and IBJJF Worlds. You really care about the progress of jiu-jitsu also. And we all have somebody in our own academies that we look at and we're stunned by the amount of skill that they have, and we just wonder, why don't they compete? maybe they just don't want to, and competing is not for everybody. But you're looking at someone that's a hybrid. They're really great, they care about jiu-jitsu, they practice more, they put in the effort, and they want to see the results just like a competitor does, and they just don't compete. And like the previous pathways before, if you're training a lot, you're putting in effort, you're putting in mat time consistently, and that's a key word, you can easily expect to receive your purple belt within about 4 to 5 years. Now, this is looking at a standpoint from as if you were a white belt right now. So now that we've taken a look at the common pathways one can take from white belt to purple belt, let's take a look at some potential setbacks one might see on their own journey themselves. So the first reason why you might get set back in your jiu-jitsu timeline is the number one reason, which is why I put it first, gym hopping, right? AKA going from gym to gym to gym, not really having a home gym. I have a friend, he was a blue belt for 10 years, mainly because of the simple reason that each time after 6-7 months, he would want to go find another gym. That's one of the easiest ways to set back your time and keep yourself at the same belt. This doesn't really relate to cross-training. I think cross-training is great. I think it's great for you to develop your game. I think it's great for you to get some competition exposure, to simulate that experience you might feel when you go out and compete. But don't mistake cross-training with switching gyms every few months. Still have a home gym that you go to. You can cross-train, train with others at another academy, maybe go to a local open mat to test your skills. But I would definitely recommend sticking with a professor and nurturing a relationship with them so that way you can progress in your ranks and stay consistent and loyal to that academy. You always want to have somebody that you can commit to as almost like a mentor or your professor, right? So this is that someone that's going to be watching you as you progress, whether you compete or not. And if you're in the mats and your professor knows you and maybe you've become acquaintances or friends with your professor, they're going to see you progress. They're going to see what you've been learning. They're going to see what your game used to look like and what it looks like now. This is really important because that's actually your development. So when your professor sees your development, that's when you can start to see progression in your jiu-jitsu rank. All right, so the next potential setback that you might face in your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu career would be injuries, right? So that one factor that can come out of nowhere, and it can be pretty unfortunate, you know, depending on the severity of the injury. And a lot of times we can control it, we can't control it. But the best thing to think about when it comes to injuries is to control the controllables. Train in a manner where you can train the next day. And it's not just physical injuries such as like an ankle sprain or a shoulder or a knee injury. It can also be your immune health as well, risking, you know, staph infections and things like this. So this is really important because injuries, staph infections, and immune problems equal time off the mats. Okay, now I'm not saying you can't get better being off the mats, but obviously being on the mats is one of the best ways to increase your skill depending on how you train. Now, like I said with control the controllables, some things are out of your control, right? It might not be your fault. Maybe you compete, you get injured, things happen. This is a combat sport at the end of the day. It's physical and it's a martial art, right? So the best thing that you can do is one, train smart so that way you can train another day and maximize your time on the mats. If you go 1,000% every day, disregarding any potential health concerns of you or your training partner, well, your training days might be limited, okay? So it's really important that you maximize your training, you maximize your time on the mats by making sure that your training sessions are efficient and how this can translate to our overall skill development, right? So nonetheless, it's important to control the controllables when it comes to this step and really think about how you can maximize and elongate your time as an athlete or just as a practitioner itself. And the final potential setback might not apply to everyone. It might just apply to some competitors that compete in the IBJJF circuit, but this would be IBJJF timelines, right? So as you know, you have to have a certain amount of time at each belt rank if you want to compete in IBJJF, okay? Now there are some exceptions in IBJJF. If you win a world title at blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, you can immediately be eligible to be promoted to that next rank. Now, each belt has their own timeline. So taking a look at the IBJJF graduation system, You can see that at white belt, obviously, there's no minimum time that you have to be spending there. However, these times start taking into effect at blue belt, okay? Now, mind you, this is for the adults and up, right? There's going to be different rules if you're a juvenile or if you were a kid that was registered as a gray through a green belt, right? So it might be different. If you were an adult blue belt, you would have to wait 2 years for you to be eligible to be promoted from blue to purple. Now, there is an exception. If you compete in IBJJF World Championship and you win first place, that time goes to 0. So as soon as you win the Worlds at blue belt, you can be eligible to go straight to purple belt. Now, same rules apply for purple and brown, but the time is different. At purple belt, you have to wait 1.5 years, and at brown is 1 year. Now, I just want to close this video off with a couple of things. I just want you guys to remember that in Jiu-Jitsu, yes, there is a belt system, okay? But don't confuse belts with skill. Always remember that developing skill is going to be far more important than trying to chase belts, because it speaks to our materialistic desire, right? We want to achieve that next thing, that next physical, tangible goal, right? Whether it's a belt or a trophy or a tournament or a medal, okay? But one thing that remains king of everything is skill development. The more you train, the more you get exposed to real jiu-jitsu, you'll notice a difference between those that are skilled and between those that aren't, right? So that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. It's extremely honest. Even though you can dress up and look nice, for example, put on a black belt, doesn't mean that your skill will always be there. Whatever skill you have will show itself. So there's really no hiding in that regard. Just remember, guys, that if you focus on skill development, you will reach your graduation goals in no time. Rather than trying to associate mat time with belt rank, try to just focus on developing skills that you personally know you need to develop. There's always that one area that you can get better in jiu-jitsu, and we all know it, right? So maybe you can't escape out of mount, maybe you're having trouble passing lapel guard. These are all things that we all know we need to improve on, and our goal is to do our homework, try to improve as a practitioner or as a competitor or as a hobbyist. Whatever you like to do, you want to be good at what you do, right? You don't want to go to the gym and suck every day, right? You want to go to the gym and do better. You want to be better than you were yesterday. You want to start submitting people. You want to start escaping from bad positions. So do your homework, develop your skills, and the belt rank will come in time, okay? So good luck to you guys all that are out there watching this video. I hope you guys achieve your graduation goals in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but just don't forget, develop skills. That's the most important part. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Os!